With time to spare. With time to spare. We got it figured out. We did it.
Good morning, GitOpsians. We are excited because we took a couple extra minutes of our pre-show time to clean up some of our like graphical and video assets for the stream. Ooh, but I have the wrong background on here because that's the annoying one that constantly does things. I fixed it. It will not do that anymore. It's distracting for me. But yeah, we cleaned up some assets so that it's a little bit easier for us to manage the stream, which will be nice. So good work, Jonny. Well done.
Thanks. Good work, Hilary. It's a teamwork thing.
Team effort. Yeah. Right. So before we get into the stream topic, which you guys are going to be disgusted, I have slides. It's gross. But yeah, so before we get into the stream and the topic at hand, we had a couple of quick announcements. It's almost like a little bit of a too early to announce it, but this is like the last stream, almost second to last stream before the winter holiday, so I guess we technically have time. But later this month, the Argo agent, which we showed on a previous episode, will finally move to GA, general availability. I think you can use it as like a tech preview thing right now, if memory serves.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And again, for the context, agent in this case, and we're not talking about AI agents or anything like that. It's just, a little piece of software that runs and goes out and grabs a thing and brings it back to do the thing, right? It's that more old school agent design pattern. So yeah, that's the one. KubeCon EU schedule is live. I am like incredibly excited to be able to share that I myself and Christopher Newland, also at Red Hat in the AIBU, we had a talk accepted to the main conference, to KubeCon itself. It is about observing your AI systems with LLMD, S3 best practices, and so forth. We're really, really excited to do this talk and prepare this talk. This is something we've been talking about. We've been talking about it for months, even before we submitted the KubeCon proposal. So very, very excited for that coming up. So I will be in Amsterdam, I'm happy to say, barring any like strange and unforeseen circumstances.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. Jonny, I think you said you had some reminders about OpenShift Commons, which will also be at KubeCon Amsterdam, right?
Yes, yeah. So OpenShift Commons, if you've been to any KubeCon or I think even OpenShift Summit, oh my God, Red Hat Summit, KubeCon, OpenShift Commons is a day zero event. If you didn't get your talk accepted for like the main Kubernetes conference or anything like that, it might be worth submitting it to OpenShift Commons because like it's a little bit easier to get in. It's also a good place to get some presentation time. You get to go and talk to other OpenShift focused people and stuff like that. It's a good thing to get into. Another part of this is that they have this OpenShift Commons superhero thing. It's probably one of my favorite things that they've done with OpenShift Commons in the last year or so, where you pick a contributor, a person that you work with that's been, they're out there just crushing it every day, but they're also doing like a lot of like community stuff, and they're giving back, or they're participating in the live stream, whatever it is, right? And yeah, they get a cape. We get to publicly acknowledge how nerdy they are, and celebrate their nerdiness and stuff like that. So I personally think it's awesome. Like I started recruiting people into the Hive Mind here a long time ago just to get my ambassador cape, which I got because it's amazing. Yeah, so that's right.
Where is the cape? You can't tell me you've got what? That should be hanging on the wall next to the hat.
I know. I moved across the world. Half my stuff is missing. I'm not sure. Like, this is only a fraction of. This is the stuff that I could find. So yeah, I have no idea where it's at. But I do have a cape. I'm partially responsible. I'm like Vecna to the Mind Flayer. I'm out recruiting people, trying to get people in. So But yeah, OpenShift Commons, it's a great thing. If you want to submit for a talk, the call for proposals is it closes January 12th. And then again, KubeCon EU is I think the 23rd through the 26th of March. So you'll have a little bit of time to figure out what's going on. But yeah, it's worth it if you want to present, if you want to get on stage, if you want to do something, to give back.
Yeah, and it's always OpenShift Commons is a really cool event. I've had the privilege of attending once. It's a really cool event because it is the people who are on the stage are typically the actual customers, and you're going to be talking to an audience that's a mix of the product folks, engineering folks, and other customers as well. So that kind of centricity around our customers being able to share and talk about what they're doing. It also, like, you will be knowledge sharing, like what you do and say may help other customers. You may get some of those people coming up to you afterwards to ask questions or share ideas. So it's a very, very cool event. And I think it co-locates well for KubeCon. And also is usually I don't know, the one time I went the food was good. So
yeah, and they have swag, which is like it's always a plus.
Swag.
Yeah, and it's a decent amount of swag too. It's not like chump stuff, right? I mean, like the one year that I went, so it used to coincide. It's a day zero event, so it used to be like ArgoCon and OpenShift Commons would be on the same day, and so I would usually be supporting ArgoCon, so I wouldn't be able to go until the tail end. But yeah, typically it's like a T-shirt. If you have a mechanical keyboard, it's like the OpenShift mechanical keyboard.
I have that, yeah.
If you're a nerd, you're a nerd. You care. It's the little things, right? It's just the touch. I don't know. I love it. I think that's a great idea. So.
Yeah, I didn't get a shirt. Not the one I went. I have a shirt from a previous year. So I was one time gifted a bunch of swag, like leftover swag from OpenShift Commons. So like I have an OpenShift Commons like Bluetooth, like JBL, like one of those hanging Bluetooth speakers. It's a good one. I love that one. My kids hate it when I use it because it just blasts music through the entire house because we have an open floor plan, but it's it's my house. And then
and I got playing the GitOps, to the Galaxy.
I'm just playing the GitOps guy, the Galaxy intro. Yeah, absolutely on repeat. That's all we do here. And I also got it because I don't go camping. I also got a hammock.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. It's a good quality one too, but I don't go camping, so I haven't used it. But I'm like also refusing to give it up because it's pretty cool. So yeah, OpenShift Commons, great event. Please submit your talks. The people who are there want to hear from our customers, and also you want the swag, clearly.
Yes, it's important.
It's important. I feel like one of the most important things we do is review swag on this show.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's to me like that's why I go. Well, okay, that's not. It's why I go to the conferences. It's why I go. Let's just be honest. Let's just be honest. I mean, like the social stuff is cool. Like I love going to the talks and learning about stuff. I love watching people like, hey, here's what I did with this thing that you shouldn't be doing. Like to me, that's really awesome. But going back to the airport with like this bag full of just crap you're never gonna wear because you ate too much, so you're not gonna fit into it anyways. Like, yes.
My plushie collection, right? Yeah, the plushie collection is really where it's at. Thank you, Acuity, for this cute plushie. Yes. I also have the Tecton cat. I have the dog from Sneak. I have here he is. He's actually right here because he fell.
I was there when you got that dog.
Yeah, you were there when I got that dog. It was a whole thing.
Yeah.
And what else? I've got the Argo guy in like a Hawaiian shirt as well. I've got quite a few of him around actually. I also have him on a ugly Christmas sweater that Christian Hernandez sent me, which I think I wear every year. But anyway, yeah, swag's great. We should actually probably do real work now.
I guess.
I just realized it's 15 minutes and we haven't actually talked about our topic. We are super on vacation mode already in our heads, I swear.
That's how it is. That's how it be.
It's how it be. December do be that way though. Right on. So I actually may not even share this slide deck because it's literally 2 slides of just my thoughts. But like transitioning into our topic. Wait, do we have any other announcements?
I don't think so. I think those were the big ones. Yeah.
Those are the ones. Yeah. So transitioning into the topic, as I've discussed on the stream before, I'm working with Andy Grabner and my other friend Robert Raytai on a book of like AI for observability and operations, and we're still kind of working out what the title is going to be because it's a fun one. And so like my current like project right now is, as we're building the book, the most important thing is that we are telling you something, reinforcing it, and expanding upon that with like the practical aspects, right? So I have the joy of turning some of our theoretical earlier chapter 1 stuff on like what is observability and what are some best practices into like, okay, well, how do you actually implement those best practices? Folks who've been watching the stream for a while know that I actually have a couple copies right here. The previous book that I wrote with Andy was Platform Engineering for Architects. Wrote this with our friend Max as well. That published last year. And so tying into the kind of that previous knowledge, talking about how you can leverage an internal developer platform and IDP and templating into actually like helping with instead of test-driven development, observability-driven development. So like, I mean, what is observability-driven development kind of speaks for itself. You're designing your software with the intention that you're going to be able to understand how it performs. I always say like quality engineering is like validating that the software is functional. Reliability engineering is validating that the software is performant. There's like a Venn diagram in there of like functional plus performant as well. Yeah, so in order to understand if your software is performing as expected, behaving as expected, you need to be building into the software the ability to observe it. So to be able to not just understand what's happening through logs and traces, but also through the collection of metrics. So you've got like the three pillars of observability, right? You've got logs, metrics, and traces. And at the base, like, okay, that's great, but it's just raw data, right? It's just raw data. And anybody can just sit there and spin up, kind of a Kubernetes object and get a bunch of raw data. What do you do with it? So we've got some, like, there are some just industry standard best practices that have evolved, right? So in Kubernetes itself, the leveraging of labels and annotations. I feel like if you watch this stream, you probably know this, but in case you don't, the difference between labels and annotations, they're both like key value pairs in the Kubernetes, like in the definitions. But a label can be used for identification and searching. So like you can do a command to get all pods with a specific label. You can't do a command to get all pods with a specific annotation. So the annotation is just metadata, but the existence of that metadata can be leveraged via integrations to automation systems. So that data gets passed through, like through the Prometheus data, for example, that the labels and the annotations will get kind of passed in on the objects that are like where the metric Prometheus metric is for. And so then that can be used for additional things. So if you have, for example, an alert and you've got that Prometheus, Prometheus alert that's firing, and then it fires, passes to alert manager, and then alert manager needs to forward it. You can have in like, or if not alert manager, like some other thing that forwards the alert. You can have it read annotation data and know, okay, I'm going to go put it to this Slack channel, for example, or I'm going to route it to this like PagerDuty queue or what have you. So it can be more complex than that, less complex than that. The annotations could be just straight passed through and utilized on the other end to capture trends and frequency of issues and identify like things like DORA metrics, like was this related to was this failure related to a change, because we can kind of put these things together. And so in that way, an annotation can somewhat be utilized as a trace as well. Whereas we typically think about tracing as like something within logs. So for example, when I worked in IoT and we had these IoT servers, we would have we would have a thread, like a number on the process of the thread in the log, and so you could kind of like pull all of them for that thread and kind of see how things pass through the system to identify where the failure happened. So it was a lot easier to kind of like line everything up with the data. So tracing is typically done on the log level, but you can utilize Kubernetes annotations to kind of like functionally create a higher order trace, which is great for those more of that business insights, business metrics that you care about. Because yeah, we care about like why our software failed, but like if you need to identify a trend of failures and if they're related, then having some higher order way of correlating that data becomes important. Again, I've said this a few times, not just in this episode, but on the stream in general, the art of turning data into information. And you can take the same data and help build different informational stories up. So that's like what you can do, and by leveraging things like Backstage, or I think we call it, did we still have Janus internally?
I think it's all Red Hat developer. There might be a Janus, so I don't know.
Even remember what they call things anymore because it changes all the time. But when you have templating or boilerplate code that your platform is supplying to the engineering teams, you are kind of encouraging best practices. And so if you look at I know you know Helm really well, Jonny. So I think I feel like I always revert to Helm. It's the thing I never write, but I love using the most. If that makes sense. I never write it because writing is hard, but using it is lovely. But like if you look at Helm, right, and the inheritance of Helm, you can basically say, okay, developers, here's your way of like putting things into your project spaces and so forth that is managed by the internal developer platform, and there could be a high level template, and then when for all of the subcharts they just need to reference the template, and whatever is defined in the template will then just kind of get like slurped in, that's a Perl term, slurped in and applied at the final stage. You can also do this with Kustomize as well. I have to go back and check my notes because I'm not as familiar with. Ironically, I'm not as familiar with Kustomize, even though Kustomize ships with Kubernetes. Like it is there by default. But you can do stuff with Kustomize as well. You can have Kustomize basically like watching a namespace, and when something enters the namespace, Kustomize will inject whatever templating information it's aware of onto that new object. That's like probably not a perfect explanation of it, but that's like the functionally kind of how it goes. And yeah, ironically, I'm not as familiar with Kustomize. It's one of the ones that I've been playing with the most right now. I don't want to say playing with, researching the most right now to gain the familiarity so that we can turn that into like practical examples. But high level, that's kind of how it works. It's pleasant because, like I said, it's like just like baked in Kubernetes functionality. It's more narrow in scope than something like a Helm chart and template and its inheritance model, right? Because it's like kind of like namespace to namespace. Whereas with the way the Helm chart inheritance model works, that's kind of not really paying attention to namespace, and it's more like distributed. Might be a way to do it with Kustomize I'm just not familiar with yet. Like I said, it's the project of the week or so forth, or a project of the day, longer than a day, that is building out this template. It's a fun opportunity for me, expand my knowledge and skill set, because I'm like, oh, I'm aware of what's there. You can do boilerplate code. We do that with the operator SDK. We throw in boilerplate all the time. You can do that, templates with Helm. And I was like, oh, what does Kustomize do, right? So have been looking more into Kustomize. It has some capabilities. And like I said, convenient.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah, the thing with like Kustomize for me is like, if you have something specific that you need to do, like think if like you're working in a pipeline, you're building an image, and you get a new tag, and you need to update the image tag right on your application. It's very good at patching, right?
Yeah.
If you need to patch a thing in a lot of different places, it's excellent for that. Like that's why it's so prevalent in the operator SDK, because
Yeah.
it takes a thing and it can roll through an entire directory and make changes. It's awesome. And that, but like when you like DRY, don't repeat yourself, stuff like that. I'm sure that there's a way of implementing it, but like for me, just the actual visual part of doing like bases and overlays and stuff like that, and you have to call it this. To me, I'm like, it's kind of gross, and I don't like it. But I do feel like it's got a very, if you're trying to do a thing, it's perfect for a very specific, like I need a surgical strike
Yeah.
on this one thing. I think it's very good at that. Where Helm is, hey, I've got, let me write this package, and I want it to be reusable, right? I want you to be able to plug in some things and do a couple. Maybe you want it to be called Jim Bob, and you want it to be called Billy, and whatever. It will, you can just plug that stuff in, set the variable, and then it'll deploy the resource. So
Yeah.
reusability, I think, is where Helm is probably the best.
Yeah, and I think it's also just a philosophical difference, because like you said, that surgical precision, sometimes that's exactly what's called for. So like, and this we gets into like the life cycling of templating objects and the life cycling of the Kubernetes objects that are templated. And there's like a philosophical argument to be made for, yeah, update the Helm template, but go surgically customize to update things ad hoc so that you don't need an entire release cycle to add metadata, right? It's a philosophical thing. You kind of have to decide, what am I using right now? What do I really need? That gets into more of like the operational complexity as well of the environment. Obviously, if you're using GitOps, what is the thing you really want to do there? So there's a lot of what do we always say? It's a horrible expression. More than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Terrible phrase. There's not one singular approach to the same problems, and it's always going to end up feeding into what is the business cases, what is the environment that we're doing this in, and so forth. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, right, we have these visibility, and then the other thing is that you can also use so like for logging, for example, you really may want like your log levels to be like, don't only really show me like critical errors or so forth, right? But if you're having performance issues that may or may not, and you're not seeing an error related to it, you may want to be updating your logging level, right? That is something that can be modified more ad hoc with something like Customize, or anything, any tool that patches but can also still maintain some degree of configuration, so that you can kind of turn it back. And again, like you said, it's good at going over directory. So instead of having to go manually touch every object that I want to increase the log level on, you can leverage something like Customize to do that. Or if I'm like, all right, maybe I want to create a one-off situation. All right, I'm going to go create this one-off situation and iterate over, crawl over the directory for it. So there's a business case for everything, which is why there's so many ways of doing this. There's a business case for everything.
Yeah.
But that gets into like being intentional about how you use your templating tools, understanding what the business need is for which templating tool you're going to pick, is related to actually being really intentional about the data you collect and the definitions of your metrics. And that's another place where the leveraging of templates and kind of letting this be platform driven is really powerful, because I mean, as a like engineer of a single application, I might be like, oh, I want to know everything. But when I look at, like, for myself as a reliability engineer across, an OpenShift platform, knowing everything makes me know nothing. If the logs are too noisy, I can't find what I need. Queries are slow and they're complicated. And maybe we haven't correctly identified how to add the correct traces to things yet to make that easier. Or I don't even know what I'm looking for yet to be able to leverage the fact that there are traces. So by putting, into way into like the build process, by putting like standard definitions around, all right, here's metrics we know we care about, so we're definitely going to be exposing these metrics. Like, these are the ones we know are important. And here's log levels that we know provide value. And then you can also start leveraging things like log filtering and so forth within not like in the deployment templating, but on like the egress. That's where you can leverage filtering, and you can apply. You can do that as templating. Some of it basically is just like in the actual like observability tools themselves. Like if you have like, I know Dynatrace supports this. I believe New Relic does as well. Datadog, like you can start doing like filtering and be like, you know what, just ignore these things. You can also do it with boilerplate too. Like, all right, if the log looks like this, we're just filtering out all these other things. So you can put all these best practices into kind of any level. I think there's like don't repeat yourself, right? There's a most efficient level, and there's also just a span of control level as well. So then you also might want to have different definitions for different environments. So if you've got, I think a lot of our customers do this, right? They'll have like an OpenShift cluster, and it's like, that's their dev environment. It's not on their machine. It's in the OpenShift cluster. That environment, it probably makes sense to just like have like, you know, whatever's the highest level logging, like info, right? Like just give me everything. Give me everything. Turn debugging is all the way up. Turn it to 10, right?
Oh yeah, debug. Turn on, yeah. I want the everything.
I want the everything. Right. There's a case to be made for that. I was like, all right, in this area over here, this is the environment information, and therefore this is the settings, right? And you make that all templates. But then when it gets to the other end, it's like, no, this is we care about actually like in a dev environment, you're probably not doing long-term data storage. You should not be doing long-term data storage. I'm just going to not recommend that. Don't do it. You probably only need like a couple of weeks. Depends on your dev cycles, but I'd say 15 days maybe. Production data, one, you got to be way more strict about what you capture, because you got to worry about PII, and that's another place where all this like filtering and templating and all that comes in boilerplate code to strip out PII. All that really important. And then the retention periods, you may want it for longer. It helps you to have better information about your performance of your system. And have certain trend captures and so forth. You can also normalize the data and change it into data sampling. All other opportunities to leverage templates, either within whatever tools you're using, or again, if you're writing code, to do that to do it yourself. And so what a platform can do is, and a platform engineering team can do, it can provide things that help to enforce like good data collection practices, best practices on making sure the data has the augmentations via metadata, such as annotations, traces, etc., to be usable information and to be something that you can build trends and so forth against. And also security best practices, right? If you get templates helping to enforce like security best practices, then that can help ensure that those standards of security and compliance are being met. So things like having a template where there's certain types of objects have a very strict time to live, for example, so that maybe you want them to go away because of that would also be for cost management as well, but for other reasons related to either security or compliance. So in all, like the templates kind of really help with like observability best practices, standardizing them across the organization. That makes the tooling for translating the data into information easier as well. It also is good for cost management, security, compliance, and so forth. So I think we've talked about templates several times on the stream, and like just kind of like what they are. So like I didn't want to go back through like what templates are, because we've done that episode. Yeah. But I think bringing that conversation back to like why do we even have templates in platform engineering? Why is that a concept? Why do we care? I think we get back to the philosophical nature of the importance of platform engineering, and the importance of platform engineering is to support developers so that they can worry about just writing their they need to not, I don't want to minimize what they do, but they need to worry about writing their app. They need to worry about writing their app and making sure their app works, and that they can deliver it so that they can move on to the next feature, right? That's their focus. That's what they do. By freeing up their mental space, the mental overhead, to only be worrying about that, then the platform team and the platform itself takes care of like the standardization. And it can do things like, you've got validating webhook admission controllers can make sure that if something gets submitted through that doesn't match the standards, it gets kicked back. So making a template, if you're going to have valid like admission controllers, providing a template that will allow people to be successful with your admission controllers also is really helpful, because that way there's not this weird kickback back and forth loop until they figure it out. Oh, it's there in a template. I just need to use the template and my stuff goes through. Like it's like a Mad Lib. Fill in the blanks.
Mm-hmm.
Fill in your blanks. Everything else is handled for you that we really, really, really want to care about and really standardize on. You can, of course, usually override templates in one way or another. So for those strange cases, or just not invoke it, right? Just, I have this thing and I'm not going to invoke the template here because it's not appropriate. I'll put my own stuff. That always is an option, right? It's always there. Again, depends on the platform settings, configuration, and so forth. But that, the idea of a platform simplifying the developer experience and overhead to delivering their software gives us that nicety of, okay, now we know what our data is going to look like. We know how to search it, how to use it, how it provides us value.
Well, as an engineer, right, or as a platform engineer, like especially you, right? You're an SRE, I write automation for GitOps and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Legos are good.
Legos are
It's
great.
good to have. It's good to be modular, right? It's good to be able to take Legos or your bits and build different things with them instead of, me giving you something to go build the exact same thing that I've already built doesn't do anybody or the world any good. But giving you the pieces that I use to build my thing, so you can go build something similar or completely different, but maybe you just need this one piece, and maybe you don't need to spend 2 days writing it like I did. Maybe you just want to take this little bit, add like the, hey, these X, Y, and Z variables, and call it a day. That's the whole purpose, right? Reusability, speed, time to market, whatever, blah blah blah, the buzzword crap.
Yeah, and we do it in Red Hat. We do it with testing as well, right? There are templated out test suites.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, you're building this thing. Here's like our completely reusable test suites and all of the data collection from that, so that you actually, okay, yeah, your tests failed, and here's all the data collection for what you need to know about like why that test failed, to understand if it happened. So again, it's all in there as it's like templates. It's pluggable, and it's observability at like all ends of the spectrum, from like that developer experience all the way into the business data, making data-driven business decisions experience by leveraging templates to get all of these pieces together in the right way. You're helping your developers and you're helping your business. And it's like it's that key thread. All of this data is so key from both like end to end of the software delivery cycle. The observability data is so important. So by like leveraging templates to standardize it, you're satisfying like so many different personas and their needs. Like I would say a lot of what I do tends more towards the platform engineering side of things than the reliability side of things. That's kind of one of those, which is a discrete job function and which is a cultural thing, like DevOps. The industry is still finding its footing on this. It's not as well defined as like a UX engineer, right? It's still a little somewhere over looking like this way, right? So, but when I do active incident management and active reliability work, right, where we're analyzing trends, in the moment of an incident management, what I need from the data is one thing for it to be useful information. But in the take a step back, acute problem solved, how are we solving this for the future? I need that same data, but I need it maybe a little differently. And I need to look at it differently, and I need to be able to trend it over a period of time. I always say that reliability work is an incredibly data-driven job, right? We care very, very much about what the data says. That's why we have service level indicators and service level objectives, right? We have all these things. We care very, very much about what the data says. And that's actually another thing that you can template out. Prometheus supports templating.
Mm-hmm.
OpenTelemetry doesn't support templating like in the same paradigm. You can kind of basically do boilerplate code to create templates for OpenTelemetry, kind of like we were referencing before. Boilerplate code is It's just here, this is a thing that everybody needs to kind of have and use, and you can bring it in. And there's so many different kinds of ways to use it. You can just like straight up copy it. You could vendor it. You could library it. Like whatever. I'm not going to tell you how to build your app and use your boilerplate, but it's not a new concept, and it's the reason it exists. So I mean, I would recommend not vendoring things, because sometimes you need to vendor, right? Golang specifically, because we're talking the Kubernetes. I don't know how it works in Rust. I don't know how dependency management works in Rust. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, in the Kubernetes space with Golang, sometimes you need to do vendoring. It's sometimes that's the needful thing. But it's not my favorite way of managing Golang dependencies. So if you could not, I would not. Just from experience, because there is nothing like doing a pull request where you had to update what's being vendored, and it's like a 10,000 file pull request. I wish that were an exaggeration. It is not. It's really not. And you're like, how do we? I mean, fortunately, it's all in the vendor directory, but like, even still, if there's a mistake in there, shrug. Good luck.
Yeah.
My bad. Yeah, not do the needful with caution on that one. But yeah, so the data though, right? The having that all taken care of so that I can then be like, all right, I know how to access this data at a different scope, because it's the same. It looks the same. It has the same look and feel at like from the acute in the moment to the scoped out at the looking across 1 month or 1 week or whatever, 1 year, etc. I would say like the power of AI is, if your data is not all uniform, it still can get you the turn that data into information for you. That is like a really nice thing. And AI as an abstraction layer for your observability data helps you to join like different types of data. Like you could probably, it can do joins with like logs and metrics and bring those two things together and present them to you in a way that, it's not always going to be perfect. But in a way that actually demonstrates the correlations that may not be as obvious. And it can help you to understand how you might refine your data so that it's faster to query and easier to understand. And it can also help with sampling as well, and kind of just do all that almost automatically, as long as, it knows how to access the data. But just because AI can help you gloss over data integrity problems doesn't mean that's what you should. And I think that's one of the points that we're getting to with this book is like, yeah, AI is great because it can help you to like be a little bit more observability tool agnostic. So like the way aggregation is done in Prometheus versus OpenTelemetry are just two like different approaches to aggregation. And they both, again, do the needful. They both have their value add from a business perspective. So I don't think some people are doing a wholesale replacement of Prometheus to OpenTelemetry. But I know that a lot of people are finding like, yeah, OpenTelemetry gives me all this great stuff, but I still like this thing from Prometheus. It provides the right kind of insights. And I know that the projects themselves are working together to kind of make a nice, like, cohabitating on Kubernetes experience. But again, that's like some of those things that AI can kind of help you with. But if you need to look at, across like, okay, so you got one engineering team that really wants to use OpenTelemetry and one engineering team that really wants to use Prometheus or just isn't ready to move to OpenTelemetry yet, whatever it is, right? Instead of like mandating timelines to change to a unified observability stack, you can use AI to kind of bridge that. And so still provide templates and so forth, but your AI is going to work better if you're using these best practices, right? Because it's garbage in, garbage out, right? So if it's getting the best practices in, you're getting the best practices out. You're going to have an easier time of interacting with your data, even with it acting as an abstraction layer. Like now I don't have to do PromQL anymore, so that's quickly going to get forgotten because I have this agentic AI thing, right? It can help me build a dashboard out of everything as well, and it can do all the things, right? But it's going to have a harder time truly understanding context and correlation if it doesn't have these best practices built in. So I like that I just have lectured for like 30 minutes. Oops. no. It is one of those things. Like AI does help you when you don't have these best practices in place for your observability. If you don't have templates enforcing things, if you don't have annotations and labels utilized, if you don't have traces across your logs, like it can still be really helpful. But I also would say, like, the next step is if you have it and it's in place and it's being used, the next step is, okay, have it give feedback to you on what could have been better. Use it as that rubber duck. Like, what would have made this work faster? What would have made a mistake not happen? Like, if you identify, hey, you've made a mistake, these two things are not related, then maybe, like, you know, you might be able to get from it why it correlated those things so that you can improve your data integrity going forward. So best practices for humans. What did I say? I think I said that an LLM is just basically another example of Conway's law, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it works great for your brain, it's going to probably be pretty good for the LLM because all it's really doing is math and pattern matching, and that's what we're doing too. So if you want to add AI into, and I'm tending towards like recommending it. If you want to add AI into your observability toolbox, do. But that doesn't mean you forgo best practices. And so that's, again, coming back to why are we even talking about, and in a book about AI and how great AI is and all the things it can do to you, the importance of basically like old school automation, right? Leveraging templating and inheritance in Helm. That's like some bare bones, old school automation. And it's because they're not mutually exclusive. One makes the other better.
Yeah, I feel like I was kind of hesitant with like AI at first. I was just whatever. It was like it's so buzzwordy. It's almost like Breaking Bad, right? Everybody was hyping up Breaking Bad, and then I watched it and I'm like, I don't like this show. And so with AI, I was like, man, I just stop talking about it. Like somebody says AI one more time, I swear to God.
Yeah.
And but then I started using like Cursor, and dude, it is dope. It's so cool.
I haven't used Cursor yet, not gonna lie.
Out. It is awesome.
All right. That's my goal for my next free time is to check out Cursor. I'm using a lot of different AI tools right now, so that's the other thing. I'm using a lot of different AI tools right now to get a feel for it and understand like what I would really recommend based on my day-to-day experience plus the experimental experience that I created in the home lab, which is always never perfect. And I think we were originally, and it's part of why we took so long to start talking about AI on the stream, is avoiding talking about AI for the sake of AI. Mm-hmm. Right? I think that was a lot of that kind of like quick buzz is like, okay, we're doing it for the sake of doing it, but we don't understand how to do it yet. And I think, again, like that's really what I want to drive home. Why the importance of templating, why the importance of still using observability best practices, and then combining it with AI is I think the joke is that we treat AI as kind of like AI is now the intern. Mm-hmm. You still need to give it what you would give an intern to be successful, though, right? Like it still needs this. You still needs like similar level of tooling and capabilities given to it in order for it to be successful in what you're doing. And if you just expect to like blat it into the stack and it's just going to work, you will be disappointed. If you are intentional and you're targeted, you can be very successful, but you have to scope the project. I think we said this on one of the earlier scripts, and you have to scope the projects. And so this is one way of kind of bringing scope to your utilization of AI is I want to be using observability best practices. I know some of them up front, and then I will leverage AI within my observability, and then I'm going to ask it to feedback into me what could have made this data better. Obviously, human check everything it does because it's human check everything another human does. That's why we have peer review. The machine is not smarter than the humans who made it. I really promise you it's not. I personally met some people who work on these things who are at like Cal State Berkeley, Cal. They're very, very, very smart people. They can tell you how many R's are in the word strawberry the first time through without spending 10 loops on it. Thank you, DeepSeek. Yes. That was fun. And so, it's that. So it's the observability best practices, like logs, metrics, traces. The platform should be enforcing it. And then the benefit you get from it is that thing that you're trying to be successful with without breaking the bank is going to work much, much better. And then can start working more agentically as well. Because like you need to make sure that it's given the right information and the right guardrails in order to behave agentically. If you want your AI to agentically do things like resolve an alert, it better understand, like better have access to all the correct information in the correct way to do it really fast, and to do it well. So that's kind of like then the final progression, right? Is you get the AI conveying information really accurately because it's like the data is coming through with what's required for accurate conveyance. And then you can move into agentic applications where it's like, okay, we know this is accurately getting data. We know it's accurately understanding data. It's making accurate recommendations. Let's add in that next piece. We've got all these best practices in place. We're enforcing them at all steps of our engineering workflow. And here you go. Now the AI can go behave agentically and make changes. And oh yeah, we utilize templates. We enforce templates. So if it tries to make a change that would violate our templates, like that's gonna fail, and we'll get those guardrails in. So I love templates is the end of the story, and your platform is like the most important thing to like that whole kind of ecosystem working. And I think it's worth noting, because we are exploring it in the book as well. Like, there's a ton of focus between Andy, Rob, and I on the Kubernetes ecosystem and stack because it's what we work in all the time. Mm-hmm. But we are also bringing in examples from serverless with like CloudWatch. So there's CloudWatch has this, Azure Monitor has some of these capabilities as well with templates and filtering and everything else that we're talking about. Like, so we're looking at serverless. We're looking at like just kind of classic VM deployments as well, because it's not just Kubernetes where this is all important. It is the entirety of the software engineering ecosystem. But on this stream, we are very, very, very Kubernetes focused. So I really kept the conversation there. But for those people who are maybe not fully in Kubernetes or only containerized, or, you know, VMs, because that's what actually makes sense. Again, you do the needful. Sometimes you just need a VM. Sometimes that's the right thing. All of these topics that we're talking about can be applied in those environments. I believe Prometheus actually can even be used in some of these environments as well. I feel like I remember seeing something about that somewhere, but don't quote me. But yeah, and so whatever your cloud provider is, if you're doing a cloud provider, a lot of their built-in tools kind of support these same best practices, or like similar best practices, like the equivalencies. They support templating. You can still be building an internal developer platform, even if it's not Kubernetes based, in a serverless environment, in a standard VM environment. It's just going to look more like old school, pre-GitOps stuff, where we had like, you're going to have like things like Jenkins or Chef or Ansible and so forth, like really in play for the setup and teardown and deployment paths, all of which supports these exact things, like all of which can do exactly what we're talking about. I'm losing my voice, Johnny. You have to talk now.
Well, it's like you just put on a roll, so I don't want to I hate interrupting. Like, it's something that like I'm actively working on to not just start talking, because it's real. Like, once an idea usually comes in, I'm just like, and it's not.
Yeah, but that's our dynamic. We just talk at each other.
I know, but like I promise, it's been like a thing like the last couple of weeks where I've actively, I'd say longer than that now, but like I've actively waited for people to finish. So I'll just keep going. And we were kind of talking in the pre-show, like if I'm not checked, like I will just steamroll on things, not on purpose, just because I get excited about stuff. So
well, I get excited too. I mean, obviously I've been doing so much research. My brain is like almost fried from how many different contexts of like serverless, VMs. Yeah. I took a peek into my favorite topic, which I always forget the name of, mainframes. Why do I always forget the word mainframe? No idea. Every time. Mainframes, Kubernetes, right? I've been looking at this from literally every context and angle right now. So if I seem scattered, disjointed, or like maybe I don't know something like super perfectly, I promise it's just because the volume of information in my head right now is a little bit mind destroying. Yeah.
I think the cool part that you were just talking about is like CloudWatch. Like I feel like there's so much that goes in the CloudWatch, but because it's such a, like, unless you're an AWS person, right, you don't really know how to you don't know how to use it, so it just becomes nonsense. But it's like anything else, right? It's like if I were to pull a musk gather, from
Yeah.
an OpenShift cluster and then give it to somebody that doesn't understand Kubernetes or anything like that, they're gonna be like, "What did you just do to me? Like, I have no idea what this is." And I think having a tool that you can go in and actually like talk to it like a person. Hey, what's wrong with this service? And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, and it can just give you all the things that are going on in your environment, and it can help you actually work backwards from your problem. So maybe your issue isn't actually your application. Maybe it's a permission that your application needs inside the cloud that it doesn't have, or maybe there's some, I don't know, some bizarre configuration that you didn't set up correctly.
Well, I mean, we've seen this before. Like, we've actually seen this on this stream back when it was Christian and I. Like with, for example, moving from the person who came on to do a great demo, and I wish I could remember his name or what he was even demoing because I can't. But what I remember very specifically is he had a demo that he used for base Kubernetes all the time and always worked perfectly. When he brought it to OpenShift, it wasn't working, and the reason it wasn't working was the utilization of privileged ports. Used like port 80.
Oh,
and
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we don't go for that here, right? It's not how we roll. So, it's these types of things when you're moving from environment to environment to environment, even if you're in Kube, it might still be different. OpenShift has these security contexts, these opinions, these you can't have a root user. Sorry, gotta remove that from your container. That's that SD Linux security standards is gonna get you if you don't know. So yeah, it can be one of those things where it's an easy mistake to make if you're not super familiar, and having that interactive observability thing like the AI be like, okay, why would this error happen, kind of helps you just get that knowledge to you much faster. And then it can also recommend fixes as well, which is kind of, I will say, like, we need to have Natan back on, and I am talking to him and scheduling when he's going to come back. We're going to have Natan or somebody else from Robusta back on to talk about Holmes GPT, because Holmes GPT is actually, I think, still doing a really great job at this. Mm-hmm. It can be otherwise kind of hit or miss, but yeah. And then again, observability. Yeah, we are cloud native at this stream, and a lot of what we're doing on our day-to-day job. Not everybody is cloud native. Not everybody should be cloud native, right? I think that's one of the conversations that kind of happening in the background is, sometimes you don't need Kubernetes. I didn't say that, though. You all need OpenShift, every one of you. But sometimes something can't work on Kubernetes, which is why we have OpenShift virtualization, and that's a great tool. And you should. That was the other announcement I forgot to make. Oh, yeah. Okay. Hold on. So, OpenShift virtualization, just at the past Microsoft Ignite. Did I already make this announcement? Maybe I did at the last stream. Is like generally available on Azure Red Hat OpenShift. Which
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, that was really exciting. I had to do very little real work for that. Mostly just tell people no. But that's not real. There was months of collaboration and consulting and back and forth and everything, but I functionally didn't have to write any code for it. I just had to be available to answer questions. So I'm gonna applaud my own involvement of sitting in meetings and looking like I knew things. But really big up on the OpenShift virtualization team for the work to make sure that it actually like runs really well on Arrow and Azure as a whole, and Microsoft's investment in that as well, and their maintainers on the KubeVirt project and everything to make sure that would run well. And the observability on that that they're trying to build in. Like they've got like, it ships with like a bunch of important Prometheus. Like when you do the OpenShift virtualization operator, it has all this important Prometheus configuration stuff for you, which we do right in all of our operator hub operators. They ship with Prometheus stuff so the customers can use it. But yeah, there you go. There's another great example of baking observability and observability. Like they did a good job of observability driven development. Actually, I'm really tickled with that. Again, having gotten to be watching them do the work, that was fun.
Yeah, the Vert project, it's surprising how awesome it is. I mean, it's not surprising in the sense that like, oh, I can't believe they did it. It's more like, it's just like they went from being like almost like a like a side project to being a full-on enterprise. Like you're a driver of oh my god, I can't even think of the right word, but like you're out front leading the way now. And
Yeah.
then if you look at like what the UX guy like Peter Koiser and his team are doing on the user experience side, like it is awesome.
Oh,
And
it's so good.
It's so awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually that gets us into like end of the year for the stream and going into next year. So our next stream is actually next week. That's because we had to bump this stream back a week because Jonny was having problems with his ISP. And we just said we'll just stream back to back. We're gonna close out the year with a fun stream. Our guest name is Kate, and she wrote the book on engineering leadership. So she's gonna come in and talk about her book on engineering leadership, Conway's Law. Johnny's not gonna be here. He's already gonna be on vacation. Darn him. We're gonna probably spitball about the way these types of things work their, Conway's law and engineering leadership like strategies work their way into the software development and kind of like what those relations, the socio-technical aspect of it. Coming into next year, we've got a couple interesting topics around GitHub Actions, Project Hummingbird, and some of the new like AI with Argo stuff. And then what I'm actually trying to queue up, I'm trying to work with my counterpart at Microsoft for this. I'm trying to queue up some migration stories for OpenShift virtualization. So working on that, hoping to have that queued up in the new year. So that'll be our topics. So if you're interested in these topics, either engineering leadership, Argo, Project Hummingbird is really great because it's about making sure we have secure images, or migrations to OpenShift. That's going to be Q1 of the stream for next year. So we are at top of the hour, so it's time to get going. We're not doing such a great job of posting about the stream on social media. Jonny and I are both not those people. That's not who we are. But we do keep the calendar. The public calendar for this stream is always up to date. So please do check the calendar. It will accurately reflect when we are streaming. And of course, like and subscribe so that you know when we're streaming next or when we've scheduled our next live stream. And yeah, we'll see you in CY 2026.
Awesome.
All right. Choose your tech debt wisely. Bye-bye.